why wouldn't you be in the building industry? You know, and I won't pick on some of the other more mundane professions, but, you know, you're outside, it's interesting, you can travel, it's well paid. So I often think, well, I don't know why more kids aren't involved in construction.
Welcome to Building Perspective, the Master Builders SA podcast. I'm your host, Will Frogley. Join me as I speak with some characters in the building construction industry. I'm here today with a bit of a legend in South Australia's building construction industry. He started Badge in 1983 and he's currently chairman, and that's Jim Whiting. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you, Will. Good to be here.
I'll start by asking you a bit about your background and how you came to start Badge in 1983, which has grown to be one of Australia's largest privately owned commercial construction businesses.
Look, I started off, if I put all that together a bit, I started off doing working for a public company in Adelaide, which was called Cowles, Cowells, which was quite a prominent public company as a graduate, if you like, a business graduate, having done a little bit of architecture, then swapping into building. That company was a good company for background because they were a building supplies company, but they actually sort of morphed into having a commercial part as well. And they had a rural buildings division. So the short part of that was they were taken over by email, and then that didn't work for a group of us there back in sort of late 82. So 7 guys back in 82 said, well, look, we're out of here. That's where the Badge comes from. Badge is an acronym for Barry Allen, David Graham, Brian.
Never knew that. Now I do.
There you go. Actually, people tell me all different views on where Badge comes from. That's where it comes from. And J just didn't work. But when you're starting a name, someone came up with that. Alan actually came up with that. So we all left on the 1st of, well, there's a couple of bit staged, but we left on the 1st of July 1983. And 4 of those guys were in the rural buildings business, and 3 of us were commercial, if you like. What actually happened, the bushfires in 83 wiped out most of the sheds in the southeast and whatever, so we got chock-a-block building rural buildings for the first 2 or 3 years. I spent the first year basically on the forklift putting materials together, which was good result for us. We were busy. The rural buildings part we sold perhaps in 87, and in 88 or 89, Barry and Alan, who were the only other guys still in the business, left. And then I've got 7 brothers. The brothers came in and bought part of the business, and then I've got the rest, if you like. And that's why it's been since 89. So, you know, there was a path through architecture, through building, through a graduate program at a public company, which was a really good background, into Badge, and then to the point where the other badges, if you like, got out. And that's how we are today.
And tell us a bit more about where you are today, how much the business has grown. You operate in a number of states now, how many people you employ, the projects you're doing.
Yep. This year we'll turnover, and we don't like talking about turnover much. In fact, what we talk about is leftover, not turnover. It's an indication of what you do. Our turnover this year will be about 450 million, I suppose. We started in Adelaide, obviously. We have been in Brisbane for the best part of those 40 years, probably 38 of those years. 25 or 30 odd years ago, we went to Perth. In about 10 years ago, we bought a business in the Sunshine Coast. 5 or 6 years ago, we bought Chapel Builders, which operates in Adelaide as effectively our small contracts building. We've since started a small office on the Gold Coast and a small office in Darwin. Having said that, we're currently building in Sydney, in all places except Tasmania, effectively. So the business we employ, I don't know, 320. Perhaps your next question might be is how they're all going. Perth at the moment is a really hard market. As a group of businesses, it's worked pretty well for us. We did Brisbane and Adelaide and Perth because we see a lot of synergies, if you like, between those markets. If you've got to move people between, which we do, COVID notwithstanding, Well, it's a similar standard of living, a similar lifestyle as opposed to places like Melbourne and Sydney. We have a small office in Melbourne, but that's really just servicing some clients we've got. So the business is going well, albeit that at this point in time, it's bloody hard in commercial building. But, it has its ups and downs.
So you've been in the industry a long time now, and you've been a master builders president. How have you seen the industry change over that period, for better or for worse?
Look, I don't think it's changed much at all. I always tell the story back when I was president and Rob Stewart was in your position. And I presume in the office there was all the minutes of the meetings.
They're still there?
They're still there. Well, anyway, I grabbed the first one, the file, and I pulled out the minutes of the AGM. And what it said was the main business for the year was hoarding fees in the city council, was labour constraints, and was form of contract. And so when you go back there, well, you're gonna pick that out. There might have been another couple, but it just struck me. I laughed. This was in
same issues,
and this was in '98. I think I was president.
Yep.
So there were issues in 18, whatever it was. There were issues in '98. And whilst not those same ones, but I don't know that it's really changed much at all. I think you'd probably find the badge people, Bradley, and speak to you. Our main beef in the industry is form of contract. And
it's a very common complaint.
Yeah, and they're getting worse. So nothing's improved with forms of contract. You get less standard contracts. You get more make-up contracts. You have lawyers, God bless them, who do two forms of contract. So contract conditions have got worse. And my view of what we would want out of the master builders is lobbying and work to be done to get equitable contracts.
I mean, they were standard form contracts for a reason, in that they allocated risk in a fair way, but they've been altered so much and they've had so many special conditions attached now that's causing problems right through the chain, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And, the subcontract market, we did have a subcontract business for quite a while, Kingsford Aluminium. So, every builder should probably have a subcontract business because they'd see the pineapple from the other end, perhaps. So we've seen it both ways, and it is a business where things gets passed down, and if it's not equitable at the top, it won't be equitable at the bottom. So that, from my point of view, is the single biggest problem.
So, Jim, do you believe it's a case of getting the government to, I guess, be the model client in this respect and setting the standard for the rest of the industry to follow? Do you think that's a good path for MBA in our lobbying to try and get some change in this area?
Look, that would be, yes, you've perhaps got to start there, but I do think as a group, master builders, we should be using our group status with private clients, as used to be the case. There was a master builders used to vet the contracts and send the advice back to the client, and there's obviously rules and regulations you've got to comply with. But from my point of view, dealing with government is not the problem, even though the contract might be the problem. Dealing in the private sector, the requirements to comply with contracts, and we talk about mental health and we talk about all this, for the kids coming through, it's no fun sitting at a computer, filling in forms, complying with the contract, giving notices and dealing with all that. Surely that's not what building's about, but certainly that's the way it's been trending. So holistically, and I know other groups are looking at this, holistically, if you could have a equitable contract that wasn't just based on evidencing what you do and doing all the form filling, etc., it'd be much easier to attract good people to it. So I do see it's the main thing we would like you to pursue.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of education that we need to put out there as MBA, because I think there's still a bit of a race to the bottom with clients in that they just look at the lowest price, but is it going to be a good quality build that's done on time and free of defects? And often if they go for the lowest price in the short term, by the time all that's taken into account down the track, they end up paying more than they would for a good builder.
Well, for sure. We've a lot of clients we've built for those 40 years, and the people who are prepared to put a value judgment on our expertise end up with the best product, and they end up with the best team. Why wouldn't it work that way? But it is, as I say, but even some of those people end up with contracts which are inequitable. We had one particular client, I mentioned, who we built for 40 years, and they actually didn't even want a contract. And the only reason they ever signed a contract was because their insurance department said they needed to have a contract. And so, but loosely speaking, we did billions of dollars worth of work for them, or perhaps $1 billion or something. But it was just based on a fair arrangement. And it worked really well for them, and it worked really well for us.
And what are some of the other things you think could be done?
Look, I think training, I think the tertiary path to construction management could do with a lot of improving at the universities. I'm not quite sure, whilst it's still the preferred course for what we do. But at the end of the day, I think that could probably be a better structured.
Better structured in what way? More practical training?
More practical training.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. We run a thing called Club 25, which is all our kids under 25, because it occurred to me one day that, we do a lot of perhaps client functions, and we do a fair bit of mixing out there in the real world. But the only people who didn't get the badge message, and even that story I told you earlier about badge, well, I've told that a million times, but the youngest people who work for us weren't the ones who heard it. So Club 25 is designed to, give them a bit of a history, but also to involve them with all levels of management in the business. It's designed to look at what they want to do, what we need to train them for. Sounds a bit like what you should be doing anyway, but if we didn't draw a line somewhere, you'd say, well, that should just happen. Well, it doesn't just happen. So Club 25, we've actually got 50 people in Club 25. So we've got 50 kids, not kids, I suppose, 25. Anyway, we've got 50 under 25ers, and that's turned into a really good program. Back to your question about, what else could be structured? Well, I suppose we're supplementing their own training, and it's everybody under 25. Anyone who's an assistant or a labourer or a construction management guy, if you're under 25, you're in it. In fact, we've had two really good girls who've come through that, who've then started off as assistants and have then gone through to finishing construction management. So they got a full-blown career in construction, starting off as assistants. Both girls, which is great. Both done really well.
Fantastic.
So we're doing the supplementing, I suppose, of what we see they don't do. But as a course, we've got some people who are involved with the unis and how it happens. But, training as people, well, no one can get people. Surely if none of us can get people, well, there's a need to train. It does surprise me. I often say this, that the reason I'm still in construction is because I really like it. I liked it when I started, and I like it now. If I look at careers for people, kids, why wouldn't you be in the building industry? I won't pick on some of the other more mundane professions, but you're outside. Well, you're building things. You go from one task to another task. It's interesting. You can travel. It's well paid. It is well paid. I only have to look at other professions in our office compared to what the graduates get paid. So I often think, well, I don't know why more kids aren't involved in construction, because I think it's fantastic.
I agree
profession.
100%. And I think for many years, the reason why is that there wasn't enough promotion of our industry, particularly in schools. I think we're seeing the consequences now of, for so many years, the number of people being trained in our industry decreasing, and now we've got a massive shortfall. What has been good in recent years is that the number of people doing apprentices in construction is starting to go up. And we're very pleased that we've partnered with the state government to introduce a new program called Born to Build, which will involve master builders, field officers going out to schools, going to sporting clubs, going to career nights, career expos, and promoting those benefits of working in our industry.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's naturally a really attractive business to be in.
I think, as you said, it's well paid, but our industry also employs more people in full-time jobs than anywhere else except health. So I think that's a good indication of, that it is a good area to be in, and there'll be plenty of work compared with a lot of other industries.
Well, as you know, Will, this pipeline of what's got to be done is getting bigger. I'd say overstimulated, to tell you the truth. But yeah, and the ability, a lot of our kids do take this up, the ability to, when you're at the right age, to travel. One of the attractions we think of what we can offer is they can go and work on the Sunshine Coast, they can work on the Gold Coast, they can work in Perth. They can work anywhere. We have, it'd be well over 50 people working out of the office, if you like, the office of origin. And it is that sort of game for that part of your life. You can do it. We've also got an office in Darwin. Don't know if I mentioned that. So, yeah, why wouldn't you?
When you said there's a lack of people, what positions in particular are you finding it particularly hard to get good quality people at the moment?
All of, whether it's safety officers, whether it's labourers, whether it's construction managers, contract administrators. Look, and I don't think anyone would be any different. I think everybody's finding it hard. There is a lot of work out there, but even if we've all been slowed down by COVID, some of our bigger jobs, well, we don't have any less people. We're doing less turnover. We can get less out the door, but we can't drop off a person to compensate for the different turnover. So everybody's looking for good experienced people. I think you've got the end of the bigger demographics of baby boomers and immigration and all that stuff that gets aired pretty well in the media. But yeah, it's a war for talent.
Mm-hmm. I think along with COVID, the biggest challenge we've faced in the last 2 years has been those shortages of materials and also labour. That's something I get constant calls about.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly materials, particularly if you've got we're doing a terrific job down at Mount Gambier for the council, but the flooring, the timber flooring, the timber for the roof. In the middle of COVID, you'll get it when you get it, which doesn't tie up particularly well with your prelims on the project or your program. So, perhaps some people think builders exist on sites and their prelims don't matter, and that if you get time relief, you should be happy. Well, the clock's rolling along on the whole lot of the site, and they're very expensive beasts to run. So, yeah, no, it is, that part of it is hard. As I say, I think, go back to the point, is to get out there and promote it as a good career.
And it absolutely is, no doubt about it. And, we're seeing that at MBA. Our apprenticeship program's grown quite considerably over the last year, and we just want to see that growth continue and get back up to those glory days when, we were employing more than 200 apprentices. So we're on the way, we're getting closer, and we just want to see that continue. But I think a big part of that is that you need that pipeline of work. The industry's got to be busy for those opportunities to happen. So that's where I think there's definitely a very important role for MBA to play.
Absolutely.
Yep. So you turning to another topic now, you've obviously worked on a lot of projects over the years. What's been the most memorable one for you and why?
You should have given me this question on notice, Will. Look, they're all, I don't know that there's a standout. We had the client I referred to earlier was Ingham's, the chicken people, and that was such a terrific relationship. And some of the projects, perhaps one we did at a place called Murray in Brisbane in 2000, and one we did here at Edinburgh Parks in 2008 or something like that. They really stand out sort of projects. They were another level of sophistication and detail and size that we had to go to. But, I don't know that there's anything in particular. Those two are probably stand out for me a bit. But we just finished a really good building in Perth for the university. which was an Indigenous studies building. That was a fantastic building. So perhaps I like all the buildings we do. That's one of the things I like about it. I like, it's an old story, isn't it? Driving past things and saying you've done them. But when you get a building that's a bit more detailed and a really some, I suppose a basic school's a basic school, but some of the buildings we're doing one at the moment. We're doing a roller coaster at SeaWorld on the Gold Coast, and that's a bit of fun. We're not obviously designing the roller coaster, but putting that together. So they give the team a bit of a jolly along.
I can imagine, there's a real range of projects you're obviously working on, and I'm sure that keeps it, very interesting and exciting for the team. So, yeah, it's, Badge is definitely a company that's well regarded in the industry and has been for a long time, and it is well regarded by clients in particular. So I think it's a credit to the team there at Badge that they're doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, thank you, Will. Yeah, no, it's good fun. We do have a good team, and next year we'll roll out a bit of stuff for our 40th. But I must say, it's been a pretty quick 40 years.
Yeah, 40 years. Wow. So I guess where would you like to see? Have you got any plans for Badge in the future, or even separate to Badge? Where's Jim Whiting going to go in the next, maybe 10 years? What's the plan?
Simple part is I'm not going anywhere. But no, look, we've got a good plan. Roger, who's our chief executive, and Nick Abley's our chief construction guy. They're both Adelaide fellows. Adelaide's head office, but it's in fact, next week we've got all the interstate managers coming in. So look, our plan is to keep doing what we're doing and to be, our three things are to be safe, for everybody to be safe, is to be strategic. You do have to be, which path you want to plot, and then to be sustainable. It's a period at this point in time where profitability is lower than it ought to be, but you've got to put a line through the 40 years, and clearly we've done okay out of it. But so we'd see us doing the same thing, but keeping with those three S's in mind, if you like. Me personally, I've got one son who's in the business. I'm not going anywhere, as I said before. I enjoy it. Obviously, as executive chairman, I'm not perhaps as hands-on as I was, but I've got all sorts of different interests that keep me busy as well.
Are you a golfer? Are you a fisherman? What kind of things do you like doing when you've got some downtime?
Well, I'm a bit of a part-time farmer, so I probably spend a bit more time on farming pursuits. I mean, I like golf and I like tennis. I've got 7 brothers, so if you've got a whole lot of brothers, you end up playing a lot of ball games.
Exactly. I've got 2, so I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So, no, all of the above. I don't see much changing. Of course, grandchildren and all that was good fun.
Fantastic.
So, perhaps when I get to 50, I might review
it. Good man. Well, Jim, thanks for coming in today and speaking with us. It's been very interesting hearing about the history of Badge, and I wish you all the best for the future. Thanks for joining me on Building Perspective. For more information on Master Builders or our guests, please visit our website at mbasa.com.au.